The following video is not intended to cause personal offense nor to be interpreted as a personal attack on the individuals included or mentioned in the video. Should the person or people included or mentioned in the video feel that I have not exercised enough discretion to meet with the above mentioned criteria, this video will be removed should they demand that it be done. For the sake of keeping up with continuity, it is highly recommended that you watch the video titled Unlocking the Mcconnellret Instance - The Story before watching this one. If you have already done that, then I apologize for wasting your time. Enjoy.
Run!
Mcconnellret is a single boss, ad-free encounter located within the Shrine of the Untouchable raid instance. The fight will not only test your competence in respecting boss mechanics, but also your positioning, as well as your group's overall single target DPS. In total, the fight consists of 4 phases, plus 1 additional intermission phase. Players may choose to engage this boss at 3 levels of difficulty: looking for raid, heroic, and mythic. You will not find this boss on normal difficulty. In order to become eligible for entering the raid, your realm needs to have unlocked access to the Shrine of the Untouchable, as well as completed the quest chain leading up to its discovery. This allows all players on your realm to start the encounter. However, the encounter startup mechanism is wired deep into your chat history, spanning all characters across your account. If the game detects that you have, at some point in time, participated in activities which explore furry and anime-related themes, you will not be able to participate in the boss encounter. To bypass this prohibitive feature, I recommend creating a new account. Once the encounter has been activated, Mcconnellret makes a grand entrance in the Shrine Grotto and bathes everyone in the radiant glory of his holy eminence. What follows is a short, speechless roleplay exposition in which Mcconnellret performs the slow RP walk with an upright back and head held high so as to inform the raid group of his authority.
How about that, dude? Who is this guy, man? Well, that's me, McConnell.
Now, before I elaborate on what awaits players in each phase of the encounter, it is important that I cover some of the boss's core overarching mechanics which are present across nearly all phases of the encounter, so you know what to pay attention to. McConnell's lifestyle is inconsistent, and he often resorts to cheap foodstuffs with an easy and quick preparation time. Combined with his laziness, players must take this negligent behavior into account as failure to navigate through areas riddled with discarded ramen noodle packets can cause you to slip, which translates to a 2-second stun. Mcconnellret is heavily active on social media. No comment of relevance escapes his notice, so players will need to be extremely careful, because if they have, at some point in time, slandered McConnell's good name on either YouTube or Reddit, they will be subject to instant death, and also forbidden from participating in the Mcconnellret boss fight for 12 months. Lastly, Mcconnellret brings with him a special cache, which acts as a depository for the majority of his revenue earned through online activities. This object is extremely important to the fight, and there are a couple of mechanics central to the sacrosanct coffer, which span nearly the entirety of the encounter. However, for the sake of convenience, I will touch on these later, so I can put them into context first. With everything I've said in mind, it's time to take a look at the fight itself. Now, it begins.
This is one of your biggest mistakes ever.
Mcconnellret starts off with a quick stretch to get ready for what is to come. Time runs slowly in the Shrine of the Untouchable, so for McConnell, the time lapse between now and his last awakening amounts to that of a day, which he distinctly points out through his dialogue.
Ugh. What a day. What a day. Ugh. That's salty.
This process lasts 6 seconds, and it is important that players stave off their attacks within this 6-second time window. Here is why. If you attack Mcconnellret while he performs What a Day, the boss will earn a stack of Plight of the Downtrodden. The buff application has a 2-second cooldown, which means it can only be applied to the boss every 2 seconds. However, poor management of this buff is a dangerous precursor to losing the fight. This is because at 7 stacks of Plight of the Downtrodden, the boss will regress into a state of everlasting lethargy, in which he suspends all player activity as well as his own for 8 hours.
I don't give a fuck about what my viewers want me to do, man. I suck dick on my own stream.
This causes players to become immobilized and silenced, and prevents players from leaving the raid instance premises while everlasting lethargy is active. So unless you want to force yourself and your raids to helplessly stare at the boss performing mundane idle activities such as sitting or walking in circles for hours on end, I recommend you avoid applying stacks of Plight of the Downtrodden by any means necessary. If you're doing this boss on Looking for Raid difficulty mode, the fight will begin with Mcconnellret automatically using Everlasting Lethargy, regardless of the circumstances. After Mcconnellret has finished his brief activation routine, he will finally engage you in combat, and unlike his predecessor from the previous raid tier, he is considerably more threatening with the damage he deals. For this, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that the majority of Mcconnell's base abilities consist of the standard Retribution Paladin abilities, so there is not much in terms of novelty here. Expect abilities such as Crusader Strike, Judgment, Blade of Justice, Templar's Verdict, Divine Storm, Hammer of Wrath, and Wake of Ashes to be on his rotation menu, even Avenging Wrath, which has a 2-minute cooldown. The bad news is that McConnell has fully embraced and perfected the art of the Retribution Paladin class, which is why, on Mythic difficulty, his Avenging Wrath has a 50-second cooldown instead. The bright side of this bad news is that, having integrated every aspect of the Retribution Paladin class into his repertoire, some of these aspects come with inherent drawbacks, such as the wheelchair struggles.
This isn't fair, man.
Despite being classified as a boss, movement-impairing abilities are the one form of soft crowd control that Mcconnellret is vulnerable to. So if you're losing the battle in melee, make sure your group is actively prepared to start kiting the boss when necessary.
Like, Ret actually does suck. It's terrible. That's not a meme.
However, even kiting is something you will need to be smart about. This is because the boss suffers from LFT, which is short for Low Frustration Tolerance. This means that if McConnell has not attacked a target at least once within the span of 5 seconds, while Avenging Wrath is active of course, he will gain a stack of Accumulating Madness.
Oh my god!
Be extremely careful about this, because at 3 stacks of Accumulating Madness, Mcconnellret will unleash an ear-shattering annihilation, effectively killing all players within a 200-yard radius. There is no way to outrange this, and it cuts through immunities. Therefore, it's an easy wipe. One of the most important mechanics that players will need to pay maximum attention to is McConnell's business strategy.
Give me money and I'll care, okay? How about that?
Give me money and I will care causes Mcconnellret to gain 3 stacks of Plight of the Downtrodden if he does not kill at least one player within the span of 35 seconds.
Maybe if you guys gave me money, I'd care more, but you don't even give me money.
Remember, Plight of the Downtrodden leads to everlasting lethargy. I've already described what that does. The 35-second timer, however, can be reset to delay Plight application. Players can achieve this outcome by giving up a large sum of gold to McConnell in the form of 10,000 gold. One player at a time can fulfill this task. You can do this in several ways, as the fight will grant you access to 4 extra action buttons, which allow you to offer gold. Each button correlates to a certain sum of gold. The first one allows you to tribute 2,500 gold. The second button is 5,000 gold. The third button is 10,000 gold, and the fourth button is 20,000 gold. On Mythic difficulty, Mcconnellret does not accept gold. The boss will accept dollars instead.
Good shit, dude.
Furthermore, subscriptions extend the timer by 1 second, and instead of donating 10,000 gold to reset the timer on Give Me Money and I Will Care, $5 must be offered up instead by at least one player. Take note that every piece of gold as well as every dollar goes straight into Mcconnell's sacrosanct coffer. Fighting the boss on mythic difficulty will also convert your extra action buttons for donations from gold into dollars, using Blizzard's new state-of-the-art in-game technology that helps integrate your World of Warcraft account with your PayPal or bank account. It is therefore mandatory that you have this cross-platform feature enabled. Otherwise, you will not be able to do the boss. You'll be able to choose between making a $5, a $10 donation, or a $50 donation, or a $100 donation. You also obtain access to 3 additional extra action buttons, each of which translate to a subscription of 3 different tier levels: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Every time you reset the timer on Give Me Money and I Will Care, the minimum requirement of gold required to reset the timer increases by an additional 10,000 gold. On Mythic mode, the minimum requirement increases by an additional $2.
What is my recipe for success?
Leech, 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 leech.
Now that you know that money plays a crucial role in the fight, it is important to note that the 8-hour duration of Everlasting Lethargy can be mitigated. If you are under the effects of Mcconnell's Everlasting Lethargy, you may donate 20,000 gold to reduce its duration by 0.5%. On Mythic difficulty, you can achieve the same result by donating $1. That means 0.5 reduction per dollar donated. Let's cover a couple of other core overarching mechanics revolving around the donations mechanic. Mesmerizing Riches causes the boss to become distracted for 8 seconds should a donation worth of $100 be offered. However, if used throughout Everlasting Lethargy, which already renders the boss inactive, Mesmerizing Riches will only pause all sound effects for 8 seconds. Retribution policy is extremely punishing to those who misclick or misbehave.
There's a new TOS, man. You can't harass me, dude. You better stop right now.
Try to avoid refunding your subscription at all costs, as well as avoid humiliating the boss by making jokes about his name, as this will net you a swift instant death. Lastly, a very major mechanic to be aware of is called denouncements. Once the Sacrosanct Coffers reaches $800 from player donations, certain individuals of influence across the web will set their sights on the boss with feelings of strong disapproval over his business scheme. Exposure to this causes the boss to lament the circumstances and show deep regrets over the way he represents himself.
You know, I don't like to do that because that's not who I am. That's not the kind of person I want to represent. And
in this state of spiritual vulnerability, Mcconnell will briefly take 20% increased damage from all sources for over 15 seconds. After those 15 seconds have passed, however, Mcconnellret casts all pretense aside and lays his cards on the table, staying true to his legacy as well as his true self.
I just want to say,
go fuck yourself!
Causing him to deal 30% increased damage for 20 seconds. As you can see, money is a significant factor and plays a vital role in the fight. Still, if you are going through a financial crisis in life, it's probably safer to perform this boss on heroic mode. However, doing so will only grant you a brief moment of reprieve before the unavoidable occurs. Inevitably, after receiving at least 5 gold donations on heroic mode, Mcconnellret will start to recognize the full value of his business tactics. So he makes a conscious decision to upgrade his enterprise by casting New Mandate. This causes the boss to forcibly switch the raid difficulty from heroic to mythic, effectively forcing all players to rely on real-world currency to progress on the fight from here onwards.
Fuck the system! You give me money, I'll start caring. How about that? Otherwise, blow me.
And that's it for Phase 1. Keep these abilities in mind, respect them, and once you have brought the boss down to 75%, you will activate Phase 2. In Phase 2, Mcconnell inherits all of his abilities from Phase 1, and on top of that, gains access to 2 new abilities. This means you will have 2 more things to take care of. The first ability you will have to contend with is Flatus Mimicry. This causes the boss to produce vocal signals that are reminiscent to the sound of gases expelled through the anus. When this ability is used, all players in the raid must perform a perfect 2-part routine. In the first part, all players must perform a quake/fart, Once everyone has done so, the second part requires that all players must perform /s LOLW. You will only have 6 seconds to do this perfectly. Should you succeed, all players in the group will receive a blessing of Lose Bowels buff, which increases your damage dealt by 5% for 6 seconds. If your group fails to perform the rotation flawlessly, all players in the group will receive a Curse of Constipation instead, which reduces your damage dealt by 10% for 12 seconds. The second new ability is not really an ability by nature, but a feature of the encounter that happens autonomously. In Phase 2, a new area, however inaccessible, opens up, which reveals a hidden railroad track. From time to time, a hype train will appear for 20 seconds. Throughout this time period, players will see the Scam Train debuff applied to them. This causes every ability you cast to have a 1% chance to automatically trigger the most expensive variant of the Donate Money ability.
Subscribe to me and give me fucking donations right now, you little fucking cunts!
Once you have brought Mcconnellret down to 45%, the first and only intermission phase begins. It takes some time to bring Mcconnellret down all the way to 45% of his health, and by that time, the boss will get a solid idea on how ignorant his enemies are. He taps into his faith to immobilize and silence all players and putting them into a neat classroom-style arrangement. The boss takes center stage and fingers his way through his pocket so as to find and whip out a long, hard pointing stick, with which to help players know how to proceed with the next task. He takes out a standard blackboard for teaching purposes and starts distributing a series of nouns that players must obediently repeat. Based on how long it takes them to react, players will earn a grade. To cut it short, react fast, and you get a buff to increase your damage. If you are slow, your damage gets reduced. If you don't react at all, you will receive a stronger damage reduction debuff. Due to the dangerous nature of the fight, however, especially dangerous to those who cannot afford to wipe on the boss to get all the way to the intermission phase, I have decided to replicate the contents of the intermission phase within this video, so you can practice this specific part of the encounter safely without losing any money. Make sure to be logged in on your World of Warcraft character and practice spelling out the words as you hear them. Here we go.
Fuck. Shit. Ass. Piss. Piss. Fuck. Fuck. Dick. Fuck. Dick. Ass. Dick. Cock. Cock. Fuck. Dick.
Class is dismissed after all nouns have been covered, causing the encounter to transition to Phase 3. Mcconnellret performs a mass repentance, making sure that all players stay in place. Once more, he RP walks to take position a bit further from the players, creating good enough space to offer yet another solemn prayer to the holy light. A shining light of daybreak pierces through the ceiling, and the heavenly powers above bestow upon Mcconnell a pair of consecrated loudspeakers. These powerful audio devices generate intense sound waves, so you want to avoid standing near them. This is because standing within 8 yards of the loudspeakers applies a stack of hearing loss for every 3 seconds spent within their vicinity, which decreases the volume of all audio effects, whether they are in-game or add-on related. This effect, however, is not tied to the music played by Mcconnell's playlist, which I'm going to touch on soon. At 5 stacks of hearing loss, the debuff transforms into multiple sclerosis, which reduces your damage dealt by 30%, causes your primary resource such as rage, energy, or mana to wither away every 1 second by 50%, and every 8 seconds you get stunned for 3 seconds. Multiple sclerosis lasts for 40 seconds. It is simple. Avoid standing near the loudspeakers. These 2 expensive devices serve as an outlet for the boss's high-octane playlist, which consists of a variety of songs revolving around genres such as progressive house, electro house, and trance, to name but a few. These songs are empowered by the device's unique feature, labeled as Crusader class amplifiers, which allows the boss's music to take full control of the player's camera point of view, causing it to shake rhythmically with the beats. The intensity of this rhythmic shaking is dependent on these 2 factors, the song structure and the audio volume. The latter can be influenced by the loudspeaker's central volume slider, which automatically increases in decibel output as the fight goes on by 3% every 2 seconds. Players may stand within 4 yards of the volume slider to reduce the volume, which decreases the volume by 3% for every 2 seconds spent standing within the volume slider radius. This, however, applies stacks of overwhelming audio power debuff, which reduces your maximum health by 5% per stack for 30 seconds. Similar to the Queen Ashara encounter. The melodic composition of these songs is also something that should be paid attention to. Most of the songs are structured in the following way. A song starts off with a calm pace, which has the basic effect of causing only small camera vibrations to the players. Nothing much to worry about here. Later on, however, a minor build-up occurs, and this not only increases the degree of camera shaking by 1 extra level, but it also extends the radius at which the consecrated loudspeakers can apply stacks of hearing loss by 30%. This effect then dissipates as the song shifts to a second calm state, giving players a brief moment of reprieve. However, a second build-up occurs, and this one is stronger than its predecessor, as it extends the radius of the hearing loss zone by 60% rather than 30%. Same with the first build-up, medium camera shaking ensues. Players in this phase may choose to give pause to the music for a total of 8 seconds if they offer a minimum donation of $50, which prompts Mcconnellret to pause the music. Every additional $7.5 extends the duration of this pause by 1 extra second. What follows soon is the most pivotal moment of the encounter, and if the volume slider has not been handled properly at this time, your raid group will likely find themselves in deep trouble due to the meteoric climax, which not only extends the radius of the hearing loss zone by 180%, but also causes unbearable camera shaking. It is throughout this particular period of the song that Mcconnellret also obtains the Untouchable buff, which strengthens his defenses significantly by reducing all damage taken by 99%. However, Untouchable is active only during the meteoric climax. It cannot be interrupted by pausing donations, so I highly recommend saving all of your defensive cooldowns for this specific period of the fight. This phase, specifically phase 3, lasts until Mcconnellret has reached 35% of his maximum health. He also inherits all abilities from phases 1 and 2, with the exception of Avenging Wrath. This is when the fight becomes extremely intense, as players will be required to manage multiple mechanics at once. In the end, only the most skilled raid group may triumph. And at 35% of his health, phase 4 begins. This phase doesn't offer much, however, the boss takes with him all abilities from phases 1, 2, and 3, including Avenging Wrath, which he did not have in the previous phase. The combination of all of these abilities and mechanics from all the previous phases has terrible destructive potential. I highly recommend saving your Bloodlust or Heroism for this phase exclusively. If players do get this far, Mcconnellret takes notice of it. Knowing his foes are formidable indeed, he creates an empowered version of a divine shield to fully protect himself from all player attacks. Truly Untouchable, however, does not override the effects of wheelchair struggles, so keep looking towards kiting the boss when it is necessary. This defensive action made by McConnell is draining and costs a lot of power to maintain, however, which ends up leaving his sacrosanct coffer in a vulnerable state, causing Mcconnellret's most prized cash to become attackable. This is the fateful crux of the encounter, the fiery crucible where your raid group's collective might is put to the test to withstand the unyielding barrage of Mcconnell's wrath. Even if your numbers whittle down, even if you succumb to the relentless pressure, you must keep fighting!
No, stop! No!
With the coffer destroyed at last, every bit of gold and every dollar previously donated gets immediately refunded to the raid group. That which was once abundant with a multi-digit number plummets into a pale, barren zero. Congratulations, you have passed the most arduous chapter of the encounter. But it is not Yet over. The heartbreaking sight of his hard-earned cash fading away coils itself around his mind and soul like a famished king snake, crushing every ounce of self-restraint that had kept the paladin in check. A primal rage overcomes him, more catastrophic than righteous. He grips tight his weapon and winds up for a destructive attack, a decisive stroke which not only deals 2,000% of his target's maximum health, but also cuts through every form of immunity.
God damn it! You fucking stupid idiot!
It is also worth noting that it has a 100% susceptibility to being blocked. Broken and powerless, the madness in his eyes snuffs out. The boss falls on his knees to silently lament his terrible defeat. His strength failed him, his finances dispossessed. And it is at this pivotal moment of the encounter that Mcconnellret's soul is laid bare, causing his inner pain to flourish into a wide aura that engulfs the floor in the form of a holy fog. This golden haze acts as an extension of Mcconnellret's status as a destitute person, which is what he becomes in the final stages of the encounter. It is through this fog that Mcconnellret attempts to reach out to the player's humanity and sense of virtue, so as to drain, earn their money as alms for his hardships. Players must act with precision and skill to jump between pieces of the sacrosanct coffer's debris to avoid the floor is leaching, which continuously grows in height and volume. Falling into the fog not only causes you to become vaporized, but it also drains 20% of your current PayPal balance.
Please give me money. I live with my parents. It's really hard. It's really hard to move out. And I can't even buy food. It's hard. I wake up every day. Just give me money, please. Please give me money. Oh, God. I can't take it anymore.
When Mcconnellret finally runs out of breath, the fog dissipates. Knowing that nothing but defeat awaits him should he linger for a while longer, the boss performs a tactical retreat.
Eat my ass!
Players may henceforth enjoy their spoils of war from the remnants of the sacrosanct coffer and celebrate their victory at long last. And that's it. Congratulations. You have defeated Mcconnellret. Enjoy the loot. You know, I'm sure some of you might be feeling frustrated that I've omitted a couple of references that would have made the encounter more true to the character. If I were you, I would head right over to my Twitch channel and let me know about what I could have done better. Oh, and don't come empty-handed. Trust me, nothing gets the message across better than a beefy donation. Or a subscription. Or, I guess, following me is enough too, I guess. Thanks for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it, goodbye.